Hey, shalom everyone. I thought I'd do a Ray Bash's Ramblings before I headed off to work this morning. This is Chris Shoemaker, also known as Yehuda Ben Shomer. And as you know, Ray Bash's Ramblings is a segment that I like to call Ray Bash's Ramblings because I like to, talk about whatever's rambling around in my head and just kind of get it out in the open, whether it's to express an opinion, to clear up a matter, or to even vent. But a lot of times I'll see things that are going on in the Messianic Hebrew roots, Nazarene Jewish movement, and I just kind of like to bring people's attention to these things, and maybe some of you guys out there can relate. Maybe you've run into this, but we in the West, we pretty much all know or have at least heard of Sigmund Freud and Freudian psychology. And as a result, he has coined a lot of terms in the psychological world. One of those is penis envy. And, I don't mean to be coarse, or I don't mean to joke around. I'm being very serious about this, and I don't mean to be perverted or unseemingly in any way. But I've noticed that there is such a thing as shofar envy within the Messianic Hebrew roots and Nazarene movement. And you can clearly see the analogies between Freudian penis envy and shofar envy. And why am I bringing this out? It's because we as believers in Messiah Yeshua, Torah-obedient believers in Messiah Yeshua, we need to focus on the Creator, not the creation. We need to focus on being Torah-obedient and being like Messiah. And Messiah said, look, I didn't come here to be served. I came to serve. And so we are to be servants. God created us to be recipients of His blessing. And so it's contrary in some ways to us to be givers, because God is a giver, but yet we're created in the image of God, and therefore there is an aspect of us that's geared towards being a giver, even though we're more well acquainted with and more used to being recipients and receivers of God's goodness and God's blessing. But when we are to be Messiah-like or God-like, we are to be givers. So, a lot of times we're too focused on us and on what we have, and we have created artificial status symbols, just like in the world. You see somebody driving a BMW, that makes a statement. That is a status symbol, and it's a status statement. It's unnecessary. All you need is a car to get you to point A to point B. You don't really need a BMW when a Volkswagen will do, right? But people like to buy cars to compensate for something, whether it's a low self-esteem or they want to show off how rich and powerful they are, and it becomes a status symbol. Well, these worldly things and these worldly concepts have leaked its way sadly, into the Messianic Hebrew roots and Nazarene Jewish movement. This is true. True story. I remember I can't remember if it was a conference or a concert or some Messianic congregation or whatever, but I brought my shofar. I love this shofar. It's got a very sweet and pure sound. I love it. The thing that I like about it is that it's portable. I can take it anywhere I need to go. I could just throw it in a bag, throw it in my backpack, be on my way. It's not big, it's not bulky. It gets the job done, right? And I bought this in Nashville, Tennessee, at a Judeo-Christian shop, which is no longer in business, from an immigrant Iranian Jewish woman. And, so I love this shofar. But anyway, I was at this one Messianic place, and this guy kind of come up to me, and he kind of had a smirk on his face, and he kind of looked at my shofar and was like, kind of like, you call that a shofar? He's like, he pulled this little shoulder bag off and unzipped it. He goes, oh yeah? Well, I've got a double twist shofar. One of those big, long shofars. And I'm thinking, yeah, so what? Yeah, you should get one. Everyone should have one. Why? This does just the job just fine. As if you were more spiritual, or you were more messianic, or you were more in tune with God if you had a double twist shofar, one of these big long ones that you have to have in a big sack. You have to check it in special at the airport if you're traveling anywhere. It's big, it's bulky, it's not portable like this, and it's almost as if this guy had this double twist shofar as a status symbol. Oh, I'm more Jewish than you. I'm more messianic than you. I'm more spiritual than you because look at my double twist shofar. And you've just got this little, piddly shofar. Really? I mean, come on. Come on, guys. Get real. We're not to put each other down and create these artificial authority, socioeconomic status symbol things in this movement. It's not supposed to be a religious movement. It's a relationship movement because we are walking in the footsteps with Yeshua our Messiah by walking and following in the Torah. And Amos says, how can two walk together unless they agree? And you agree with Yeshua Messiah on his halakha, on the commandments. And what was his main thrust? His main thrust was to love one another, not to show partiality to one another. James talks about this. Don't treat people special who come into your synagogue that's dressed better than somebody else, or, and I'm throwing this in there, who has a bigger shofar than somebody else, or who has a bigger tefillin than anybody else, or big fat wide tzitzit more than anybody else. You know what? Yeshua addressed this. Yeshua addressed this topic, and really it boils down to an issue of pride. It's an issue of pride where you're compensating for a lack of spirituality, a lack of self-esteem, and you're saying, hey, look at me. Look at how great I am. Look what I have and look what you don't have, right? So what did Yeshua say in Matthew 23:5? He says, all their works, speaking of a certain group of Pharisees, he says, and their works they do to be noticed by men. They make their tefillin wide and their tzitziyot long. Okay, let me kind of put this into context. Let me read the verses before and after this. After this, it says, and they love the place of honor at feast and the best seats in the synagogue. This is just sad. And it says they love the best seats in the synagogue, greetings in the marketplace, and to be called rabbi by men, or to be noticed and to be noticed for their credentials and their accolades and things like this. They're drawing attention to themselves, therefore they have their own reward, and they're not being rewarded by God. What did God say about pride? What did he say about people? That he would tear down the prideful and he would exalt the humble, So you're not getting any extra brownie points with God for getting the double twist shofar. You're not, you may impress somebody who's like, oh, gee, I wish I had one. All I've got is this little thing here. Oh, gee, you might impress somebody like that. But people that are spiritually mature, they see through this facade, and really it's sad and it's pitiful because you're going to have a downfall, and you're just making a fool of yourself because you're exalting yourself, exalting the creation more than the creator, and your focus is on things that really aren't important, that really doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things. So this is just kind of something that's been kicking around in my head the last couple days, and the scriptures were coming into mind that kind of relate to what this is all about. We've got to get our focus off of physical things. I've been in prison ministry where there's guys that would love to have shofar, that would love to have tefillin, that would love to have proper tzitzit, but yet they have restrictions. They're incarcerated. They don't have money. They don't have access to the things that we have access. But you know what? They don't let that become an excuse as not to fulfill the mitzvot and as an excuse not to express the Hebraicness of their faith. I've seen these guys make beautiful tefillin out of popsicle sticks. They would make the boxes, and one of the guys that was locked up, he was trained as a scribe. He knew Hebrew, so he wrote out the passages of that are put into the tefillin. And then they got old scrap pieces of leather, whether it be from old Bible covers or old belts, and they would cover these popsicle boxed wooden tefillin, and then they would make the straps and everything, and they were beautiful. They didn't make excuses as like, oh gee, I can't have that. And they were so proud of what they did, and it was homemade Judaica. It may have not have been kosher by any rabbinic standard, but I'm sure that God was pleased with it, just like a parent would be pleased with a homemade crayon-drawn card that a kid made from the heart saying, I love you, happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, happy Father's Day, what have you, rather than going out to the store and buying a Carlton or Hallmark card for an occasion. It means more because it comes from your heart, and it comes from all the energy that you put into that. You put your heart and soul into that. It takes nothing to buy a card. There's no sacrifice there. So when you make your own homemade tefillin, I'm sure that God is really pleased when you make your own homemade Judaica. So like I don't even want a double twist shofar. This shofar does me just fine. I love it. Like I said, it's portable. It has a sweet sound. I can take it anywhere, and I've used it several times. And believe it or not, this was actually used in a healing service where, a blind man came into the midst after this meeting, and he showed up late, and he totally missed the service. But a couple of us were kind of milling around and fellowshipping afterwards, and he was blind. And one of them got the crazy idea, let's pray for this guy. Because they had a healing ministry, and they specifically used shofars and blew shofars over people and saw miracles happen when the shofars were being blown. And, it didn't matter if it was a triple twist shofar, a double twist shofar, a little shofar like that. Whatever shofar they had did the job. And I remember seeing this guy, and as we were praying for him, I just felt the Holy Spirit say, go behind that guy and blow the shofar behind his head. And as I visualized this in my head, I saw these cataracts or something like cataracts just blow off his eyes. And when I did that and we prayed for him, the guy was able to see. Believe me or not, I don't care. I was there. And even though I was there, it's still hard for me to believe. And I actually literally seen this with my very own eyes. And this just wasn't some random dude that was kind of unknown, that was kind of pulling the wool over our eyes or playing a farce. He was a documented, well-known blind man in that particular community. Everybody knew he was blind. And he came in blind, and he walked out being able to see. Wow. And it didn't happen with a double twist shofar. It just happened with this little thing. Not saying that this thing healed him, but God used this. What somebody else laughed at and snickered at and said, you call that a shofar? He uses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, the weak things of the world to shame the strong. He uses the underdog. He didn't use some big warrior to take down Goliath. He used a shepherd boy, David, right? So let's just keep our focus on the right things and not get distracted, because Satan will use those distractions, inject his pride into it, puff people up, and just totally blow things and destroy things and blow things out of proportion. Anyway, that's all the time I have for today. Thanks for watching. Shalom, Shavua Tov. Have a great day, folks. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press the like button as well as the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and the notification bell that'll let you know every time I make a new video. And don't forget to share this with a friend. Also, visit our website at abrahamsdescendants.com. Thanks. Shalom.